Hey y'all, if you are interested in Cold War era special operations, this is the video for you. Chief Vernon Ward is going to talk all about his time doing HAHO and other parachuting operations during the Cold War. He goes into tactics, techniques, procedures. Really, really interesting. He's extremely sharp on this stuff and a lot of fun to talk to. So hope you enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. We were actually just talking about HAHO, and I was gonna ask Chief when HAHO first started to be something that was like a standard special operations tactic.
Well, we did the IRAP test in '86, I think, and you know, the HAHO formulas and everything were all in validation at that point. And like I said, the MT1XX was basically the first true HAHO canopy we had, and it was extremely elementary at first because we didn't have GPS or any of the other things or any of the other guidance systems they have today. We basically flew with a compass, and we got to be fairly proficient. The more accurate wind data you have to plot your release point, obviously, the more accurate you're going to be able to be at touchdown. But we got to the point to where we could pretty well hit where we were going, and there was a learning curve that was very steep there for a while.
Got it. What altitude? You're is it like a 17,000, 15,000 feet? Like what kind of altitude are you doing a HAHO
get
from?
out at 25,000 feet.
Holy okay.
You can get out as high as you can. The concept originally was that we could fly in an established air route and get out undetected, and then either penetrate a border or, you know, whatever it was we needed to actually get across to. If you want true, you know, on spot, we're going to land within 20 feet precision, we're going to have to hay low. But if we've got 100, 200 meters we can work with, HAHO became pretty commonplace for us. And that turns out that detachment, that's pretty much all we did. We did HAHOs, and to maintain that proficiency, we jumped a lot. So we made 2,300 test jumps with the canopy, and then we were jumping at least a couple of times a week when we weren't deployed.
Can I ask?
And all of them. Pardon?
Can I ask how long would you be airborne once you've deployed the chute?
It actually depends on air density. It depends on the winds aloft. You could be up there, if given the right conditions, you could be up there 30, 35 minutes. And it's not a pleasant experience, I can tell you, because since you lose temperature every time you go up 1,000 feet, it could be 90 degrees on the drop zone. And when we got out, we were literally going through frost nip under canopy. And that became a real problem because you have to anticipate that it's going to be probably zero when you leave the aircraft.
Are you jumping with oxygen, I'm guessing? And it's...
Yeah, Well, if you're jumping above 15,000 feet, you're jumping without. The problem was, truthfully, is the pre-breathing, to purge your system of nitrogen. The pre-breathing is a pain in the butt because you have to be completely rigged when you plug into the O2 on the aircraft. So you're already JMPI'd. You're completely loaded with all your equipment, and then you might pre-breathe for 3 hours. So it's an uncomfortable thing.
So you're up there just
And
sucking oxygen on the plane.
Yeah. Well, you take your O2 with you. You know, not only do you have your own O2, each individual, but you plug into the O2 bottles we bring on the aircraft. There's an O2 console that just slides straight into the aircraft. But you learn real quickly about things like hotspots, where you'll get a hotspot like from your helmet or your O2 or your mask or something, and you just sit there with that hotspot for like 2 or 3 hours, and there's not a thing you can do about it, because if you break the seal on that oxygen mask, you have to start pre-breathing all over again.
Oh man, so that's just like you mean like a rash or something developing just from it rubbing against your skin?
Just something, you'll just we call them hot spots, and it just literally, there'll be a place where your helmet's on your forehead or something, and it just starts to irritate the hell out of you. And so you sit there until it's over, till you can get off the aircraft. You know, a lot of times, all you care about on the HAHO is getting out of the aircraft.
Sure. That's generally the primary objective for getting on an Air Force bird anyway, is we always say maintenance wise, we probably want to get off as quick as we can.
Yep. But you know, your delay once you leave the aircraft is only to bleed off airspeed, because obviously the higher you are, the lower, the faster the aircraft has to maintain speed to stay aloft.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that.
They'll slow down as much as they can, but you're at that same speed when you leave the aircraft. So you have to bleed off enough speed not to explode the canopy when you open. And it could be anywhere from, 4 to 5 second delay to an 8, 10-second delay. And then the key is everybody has to open at the same time. And we learned very quickly that the only way you can actually maintain that stack, you see them do it demos when they skydive, but that stack is critical, because that's the way you maintain the integrity of the team. And you want everybody to weigh the same when they leave the aircraft, so you get the same descent rate and the same drive rate. And the only way you can keep the same drive rate is to leave the brakes stowed on the parachute. If you reach up and unstow those brakes, then you're constantly trying to adjust your speed to everybody else's. You just leave them stowed completely, then everybody has the same drive factor. And so you don't have problems with somebody either getting out or falling out. And you learn to steer you steer with your butt. You simply raise a leg. And if you raise your right leg, you'll begin a slow left turn. You raise your left leg, you begin a slow right turn, because you change the pressure that's on the harness, and it creates that just enough imbalance that you make your turns that way.
Even something as simple as
our
that.
deal was, the guys that were having problems, and most of the folks that really didn't have that much experience with HAHO would grab those brakes and unstow them, and then they'd scatter like hell. You know, you got guys that are driving at 35 knots and guys that are driving at 40 knots, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's
And
so interesting to think about that.
If you don't have everyone with the same weight under that canopy, then you're going to have some guys who are sinking out or some guys who are floating up. And that's why it's important that everybody, you try to be the same weight when you leave the aircraft. So if you weigh 175 pounds, the lick on your butt, because you're about to get all the batteries. You get and if we can't get enough weight on you with all the equipment we're taking, we literally will just put sandbags or weight in your rucksack.
Oh my God. Yeah, I can't imagine the stress on your body after thousands of jumps like that.
Oh, well, I'm paying for it now, but
yeah, Jesus.
The other thing is everybody has to make a clean exit. You know, you cannot, you have to make sure that everything is basically is strapped down, everything is aerodynamic. So when you leave the aircraft, you just leave the aircraft, you're stable, and you pull. Because if a guy comes out and is unstable any at all, it's going to affect where he actually opens, because he's got to get stable before he pulls. You know, like we've had things like a rucksack strap that gets loose, and he doesn't realize it until he actually leaves the ramp. And so now he's fighting like hell with that rucksack. You know, it just, sometimes you just grin and bear it and pull anyway. But there are a lot of things that people don't really think about until it happens with HAHOs.
Yeah,
And
it's a
those who don't
complex
have much
operation.
experience, those that don't have that much experience trying to do it, will often not consider things like don't touch the brakes. You know, we used to say you're going to unstow your brakes at DZ threshold or at 1,000 feet. So everybody unstows brakes at the same time.
Are you wearing nods at all, or chem lights, or anything to be able to see at night when you're doing this?
Well, back then the nods we had were not like the nods they have now. So yeah, we tried putting you can't wear them on your helmet or anything back then. So we have tried put them in your jumpsuit and pulling them out under canopy. We tried all sorts of things, but nods just were really a royal pain for us because we didn't have the smaller nods. We had the PVS 4s and 5s.
Okay.
And we tried them numerous times, but they got to be more trouble sometimes than they were worth.
So that PVS 4, is that big? I'm looking at a picture right now. Is that big one you could mount on a rifle? It's just a monocular thing, or is that something something else?
Now, if you look, you've got the PVS 5, I guess, is what the
oh, I see it now.
binocular looking. It has a
yeah.
real wide faceplate almost, and they weren't that. To be honest with you, they weren't all that much better than a Starlight scope from Vietnam, but they were what we had available.
Got it. And yeah, that's a wild looking deal. At that time, are you wearing? So you're wearing helmets. Are you wearing the old PASGATs, or did you guys use Protex, or what did you use at the time?
We
or M1s?
We all used the old soft MFF helmets, the black helmets.
Oh yeah. Okay.
They were black, but you could almost fold it up and put it in your pocket. It was if you pull some of the padding out.
So you just wore that for your for the jump itself, just to protect your head in case you knock it on the aircraft or another jumper or something.
Right.
Got it. Man, that's
That
so
and the fact
interesting.
it kept that and the fact that it kept your head warm. Like I said, it's very cold at altitude, regardless of what the surface temperature is. So the other thing that you can tell by if you ask somebody about HAHO, the position that you fly in is basically like this, because you have your hands under your armpits to keep them from getting frostbite.
Yeah.
And you'll guys that don't have a lot of experience get out and open it, say 23.5, and if they pull those toggles out, then your hands are up here, and now you're guaranteed you're getting frost nip.
That's got to be a challenge, because I imagine your missions, if you're going into the desert, you don't want to pack a bunch of heavy cold weather gear to keep, you know, yourself warm. I suppose maybe at night sometimes in the desert it can get pretty cold, but like, you know, if you're going for a long day, you probably don't want to be carrying really heavy parkas and stuff.
No, what we wound up wearing was lots of long underwear
Yeah,
and then just peeled stuff when you
sure.
get down.
Do you have any idea what so you're saying frost nip? Do you have any idea what the temperature would have been? Is it so it's below freezing for sure?
You normally lose an average of 3 degrees Fahrenheit for every 1,000 feet you go up in elevation. Think about if you started out low and you went up a ski slope that went up 2,000 feet. It's always colder up there because you just lost 6 degrees of temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing happens in open air.
So you're looking at
You
below
normally
freezing
will
for
lose
sure.
around 3 degrees Fahrenheit for every 1,000 feet.
And then for LZs, do you have a set area that you're going to land in, or do you pick one
Oh, yeah.
when you see it, or do you know exactly
No,
where you're going?
we compute our release point based on where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
So I would take the release point, I take the impact point, and then apply the HAHO formula. That's what I said. The more accurate wind data we can get, the better off we're going to be, and the more accurate we can be. And we got to where we could be pretty accurate. You know, when you compute that release point based on that, based on the wind from impact to exit, and then you fly the appropriate heading back to it. But all that's well and good until we get a HAHO bundle. And whenever we get the HAHO bundle, then we now have a bundle with equipment that one of us is flying.
Whoa.
And we
Okay.
and we will try to let that bundle be the base. But we still have to fly it to keep it on heading to get it in there. It's called a parapoint. And it's exactly the same canopy that we have. So it has the same drive factors. And you've got a TC, and whoever's flying the bundle that day has got a TC. They're working all the way to the ground. As a matter of fact, during Desert Storm or Desert Shield, before we evacuated the embassy in Kuwait City, there was actual consideration, and I was doing some basic computations to see if we could resupply the embassy by parapoint in Kuwait.
Man, it's a a use for that type of tactic that I guess I'd never think about, because I would think that there'd be no way you could do that, but I guess you guys had done it so much you just you knew what you were doing.
You could either fly it in the air above it, or you could have a TC on the ground and fly it into you. And, you know, obviously they didn't have a TC in the embassy. So, you know, the banner back and forth was, okay, we got a one-man mission going to fly a parapoint into the embassy to resupply them. So
just one guy and then a parapoint.
That one guy was going to be probably me, but I did all the calculations to try to get to where we took historical wind data to see probably where the release point would have to be. And it always turned out that release point was in Iraq. So there was never a time we could release from over the water or from down south.
Man, and geez, and what happens if you don't hit the LZ? Use E&E, I guess.
Your SOL.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, and I'm guessing it like you'd have to be really sure the weather was right, or else you're not jumping.
Well, I don't care about the weather as long as I can have consistent winds.
The wind, okay, got it. Well, I guess I'll.
The wind.
Oh, go ahead.
The wind determines everything about HAHO. You know, if you can get out in the jet stream, then you'll be smoking. You'll be passing semis on the interstate. When you look down, you'll literally see a semi on the interstate, and you'll pass it up.
Damn. So you're going pretty fast.
If you've got the winds aloft, yes.
Got it. If you enjoy our videos, please like and subscribe to stay up to date with our upcoming releases. Additionally, if you love SOG Prairie Fire, consider supporting us on Patreon to help us continue releasing top quality content through our new mod, SOG Nickel Steel. Links in the comments.